What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the Shadow Kanto birds in the Open Great League, where they've all gained access to a new move this season, with Articuno gaining access to Powder Snow, Zapdos gaining Heat Wave, and Moltres actually getting triple buff this season, gaining access to Fly, and also already having both Wing Attack and Heat Wave, which of course did get a huge rework this season. Now I've run pretty much every legendary trio in the Go Battle League, and outside of maybe the Lake trio, the Kanto birds have been probably the hardest to use, mostly due to how bad Moltres used to be. Also, they do have a lot of shared weaknesses, but that triple buff actually makes this Pokemon not only usable this season, but actually really fun to run. Powder Snow is also a huge upgrade for Articuno, which of course got a damage buff last season, and then Heat Wave probably isn't the preferred moveset on Zapdos, but it is interesting coverage nonetheless. Now, for those of you that watched yesterday's video, you'll know the channel has been struggling over the past couple of seasons, so I would very much appreciate, especially at the start of the season, that if you enjoy my content, make sure you leave a like and hype the video as well, as it will help to push my content out to more viewers. Anyways, with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. Which buffed Pokemon have you most enjoyed using at the start of this season? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Shadow Articuno into Gastrodon. Now, of course, Mudslap got nerfed this season, meaning Gastrodon not going to be anywhere near as dominant as it has been in recent seasons. But the opponent going to go straight for a Body Slam there, maybe looking to just throw that before we do get off an Icy Wind and debuff their attack stat. Either way, Icy Wind is going to be shielded by the Gastrodon. Now, they can still outpace me just barely to the next charge move. However, we don't really care. Body Slam not going to deal too much damage there. These Mudslaps are doing basically no damage at all. We can go for another Icy Wind. Icy Wind gets the KO, because honestly, Powder Snow's dealing quite a lot of damage in that matchup. Now they come in with Salazzle, we go for Ancient Power, grab a shield, and now we swap into our Shadow Moltres. Now, I don't think they got an Incinerate through up against the Articuno, but just in case they did and we didn't see it for whatever reason, I'm going to throw here on good timing, going for Fly. Fly gets the KO, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Jumpluff. Now, unfortunately, I do end up lagging there. I don't know why the game just completely froze. We miss out on the Excellent, and we do miss out on getting the one-shot, but either way, it's going to be GG's. Dazzling Gleam gets the KO, but one more Powder Snow gets the full farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle. We're going to see Dugong in the lead. Now, this is a pretty awkward matchup for us. However, this is much better now that we've got Powder Snow, as we will outpace them to the first charge move. We've got access to Ancient Power, and Ancient Power gets the attack and defense boost. That is very nice for me. Of course, they're going to debuff my attack stats, so now we do have our original attack stat, but we can go for another Ancient Power. Ancient Power doesn't quite get the KO there, and I did consider swapping into my Zapdos, trying to snipe with a couple of Thunder Shocks. I don't think I would have quite got the KO there, so we do just allow them to throw the next charge move. We come in with a Zapdos, and they come in with a Shadow Golurk. Now again, Mudslap got nerfed this season, but we are still seeing a few Mudslappers out there. I feel like eventually people will start to run a few more Mudshot users, as they will just be a little bit more versatile. But either way, gonna go for Drill Peck, and if the opponent tries to commit to a full farm down, well, unfortunately for them, we're going to reach another Drill Peck. Drill Peck will be enough damage to take out the Shadow Golurk, and now we swap instantly into Moltres. Unfortunately met with a Azumarill, but we've got a shield advantage, so even though we're taking super effective damage from the bubbles, Wing Attacks and Flies are going to do big damage, and a second Fly will certainly get the KO. We're easily going to outpace them to the next charge move. We go for two more Wing Attacks. We don't throw on the best timing, but it doesn't matter, as Fly takes out the Azu, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle. We're going to see Ampharos in the lead, so that is not ideal for me. I kind of have to just stay in here, because I can at least deal neutral damage with the Powder Snows, whereas, of course, Moltres only has resisted fast move pressure with Wing Attack, and since we grab a shield advantage, that's honestly the best we can get out of this matchup. I'm now going to swap out, as Brutal Swing doesn't quite KO after the debuff. We come in with a Zapdos, and we can tank one Brutal Swing as the debuff there, and then, of course, go for a Heat Wave. Heat Wave gonna be shielded. The opponent probably recognizing what my team is gonna be, so they are gonna double shield the Ampharos, but the opponent committing to a farm down. They don't quite get there. Zapdos coming in clutch. Drill Peck gets the KO, and let's see what they want to do. They're going to come in with a Turtonator, get the Incinerate farm down. We can come in with the Shadow Moltres, and I'm certainly just shielding the first charge move here. They've got enough energy for a Dragon Claw or a Dragon Pulse, which would have done a lot of damage. They now come in with Mandibuzz, their final Pokemon, and again, Wing Attacks and Fly dealing huge damage here. We swap out, we make a catch. The opponent kind of had to throw straight away anyways because Articuno would then reach an Icy Wind if they try and farm me down. But now because they full sent the Shadow Ball, we can overfarm. Fly gets the KO there. And again, we can overfarm into Turtonator. I wasn't sure, maybe they'd have Brutal Swing. So we throw after 5. Fly easily gets the KO anyways. And I'm able to take that game. So, GG's over there into the next battle. Going to see Alolan Marowak in the lead, so not ideal for me in the slightest. We're going to swap out straight away into our Shadow Zapdos. Of course, Moltres would be resisting the Fire Spin damage, but I don't want to swap into my best answer. I also feel like Moltres is much easier to hard counter, but unfortunately, speaking of hard counters, we are met with a Bastiodon. Of course, Bastiodon did get nerfed this season, but I mean, honestly, people are still going to run it, and people might even just be completely oblivious to the move changes this season. We had Articuno and Moltres remaining, both of which take double super effective damage from SmackDown, so of course, I just instantly concede the match there. But GG's to that trainer into the next battle, and we see a Shadow Registeel lead. Of course, not great for Articuno, but it was an underleveled Registeel, and I believe also on Metal Claw. This is, again, another underleveled Pokemon. At the first few battles of the season, you will run into trainers that haven't really fully powered up their Pokemon, maybe not running the optimal movesets either. The opponent gonna go for Fire Punch. That actually still gets the KO there. However, it does set up a huge farm for Moltres. The opponent swaps out, but unfortunately for them, they swap into a choke. They get one shot there. They come back in with the Registeel, and they are definitely on the Metal Claw there, which means they're slower to the charge moves, meaning Heat Wave gets the one shot. They come back in with the Magmar, and I actually don't need to shield this. However, Fire Punch from an underleveled Magmar still does big damage into Shadow Moltres, but I can get the Wing Attack farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there into the next battle. We're going to see Wigglytuff in the lead. So, a fairly neutral matchup here for us. Of course, I am going to look to throw on good timing. So, I go for 7 Powder Snows and then fire off the Icy Wind. Icy Wind going to debuff their attack stat as they no-shield it. And now, I'm also going to no-shield. Of course, I debuff their attack stat, so Swift doesn't deal too much damage. I was hoping I could snipe with the Moltres, but barely not able to do so. So, potentially should have just stayed in with the Articuno and gone for another charge move there. Especially since now I'm debuffed. They come in with a Azumarill, and we've seen already Wing Attacks and Flies do decent damage into Azu, but not when we're debuffed. So of course, I'm going to wait out my switch lock as I am switch locked here. We come in with the Shadow Zapdos, and they are quite far ahead on energy. So of course, I'm going to have to use a shield as the opponent is going to go ahead and full send an Ice Beam. We're now going to look to overfarm as much as possible, but the opponent now has the energy for a second Ice Beam, and they are going to throw straight away. I did consider trying to swap out and catching the charge move there, but then I'm going to swap into a Marowak, and honestly, I stayed in for way too long. I should have swapped out immediately into Articuno. I go for Drill Peck, that does big damage, and now I can come in and go for an Icy Wind. I actually undercharged this just because I didn't quite want to get the KO there. I want to put them into range where I can Thunder Shock farm them down, and we have actually done exactly that. Now, honestly, I probably should have just thrown the charge move because as you're going to see, yes, they've not been KO'd, but they make a very nice play there. They swap back into Azumarill. They snipe with the bubble damage, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's opponent there into the next battle. Speaking of Azumarill, seeing it on basically every single team here. That's the one constant in the Go Battle League, is that Azumarill will be on basically every team. Regardless of any move updates, this thing just never seems to leave the meta. Either way, they're going to go for an Ice Beam there. We can go for another Icy Wind here. I realize, of course, Ancient Power is going to hit for neutral damage, whereas Icy Wind is resisted. However, I thought maybe if I go for 2 of them, I might live and reach another charge move. But no, that is just barely not the case there. So that is unfortunate for me. Gonna come in with a Zapdos, and even more unfortunate, I still didn't quite put them into range where I could Thunder Shock farm them down. So you definitely could argue I should have at least thrown one Ancient Power up against the Azumarill. Either way, they come in with Corviknight, and they make a really nice catch there. Probably not expecting me to be running Heat Wave, but then they end up shielding anyways onto Altaria. So that's fine with me. We can go for Drill Pecks. Drill Peck is going to be the more energy efficient move here, and has, of course, also stab damage, whereas Heat Wave is not. But Drill Peck does big damage there, And now I'm probably just going to let the Zapdos go down. Yes, Sky Attack gets the KO there. We can come in with the Moltres, and I'm going to go for a Heat Wave just in case the opponent tries to make another very nice catch there, because Heat Wave still gets the KO. And now, of course, they come back in with the Corviknight. I don't think they're going to reach an Air Cutter and a Payback, so I might as well shoot the first one. They actually go for Sky Attack, which I was not expecting, but either way, doesn't really matter. Heat Wave, super effective. It takes out the Corviknight, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle. I can see Shiftry in the lead. This is a great lead matchup for me. The opponent also on Bullet Seed. Even worse for them as they are dealing resisted fast move pressure. Icy Wind gets the KO. They might be double weak to Articuno, so they had to just fully sacrifice the Shiftry there. They're going to come in with a double. That's fine with me as they're on tackle rather than double kick. So, of course, not particularly fast to the charge moves. I'm going to shield here. It could be a wild charge, and the opponent does full send it. So now they have debuffed their defense by 2 stages. I'm now going to look to overfarm, fire off another Icy Wind. Icy Wind, gonna grab the final shield, and now I swap into my Zapdos. They come in with Shelgon, which did get a big buff this season, of course. Twister being completely reworked, now costing less energy and dealing way more damage this season. But unfortunately for them, Zapdos just too spammy. The opponent comes back in. Maybe they could have committed to a full farm down there. Either way, it doesn't really matter. We can come in with the Moltres, get the Wing Attack farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle. We're going to see another Ampharos in the lead. So, unfortunately, I did see quite a few Ampharos leads with this team. So, not ideal for me in the slightest. But, you know what? I'm going to shield the first charge. If they go for a Trailblaze there, oh my gosh, that is really frustrating for me. I could have actually no-shielded, tanked that fairly well. I did shield just in case they were on Thunder Punch. Either way, I should be able to tank anything now at least. So, no shield, but they're on Power Gem as well. What the heck? Oh my gosh. Okay, that is really bad news for me. We're going to come in. Please just let this move go through here. We go for Icy Wind. Icy Wind is no-shielded, but they've got Skeleturge, and unfortunately, slightly behind on energy. There's not much the Moltres can do. I kind of have to no-shield here as the opponent is going to go for a Torch Song, but that still does so much damage. They're going to come in with a Gastrodon, and whilst I will just barely reach back-to-back flies, it doesn't really help me. So you know what? I'm just going to no-shield, allow the Mudslap farm down, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's opponent there into the next battle. Tricky lead matchup for me as I lead into Jellicent, where of course my damage is resisted, but I can't swap out because Moltres has a pretty rough time as well, as of course Surf is going to hit for super effective. Either way, I'm going to go for an Icy Wind, as once again I do realize I can probably now throw another charge move here. I'm going to go for a double debuff, and then I can swap into my Zapdos, where I can probably no-shield a Shadow Ball, and it's not going to deal too much damage. So I'm going to no-shield. Shadow Ball still does quite a lot of damage there, as they swap into a Clodsire. But we are quite far ahead on energy. We can go for a Drill Peck and probably go for back-to-back Drill Pecks here before they get to the charge move. So we go for Drill Peck number 2. Drill Peck is going to be no-shielded, and it's actually a CMP tie. The opponent is going to go for an Earthquake there. I don't know what their secondary charge move is. Either way, it doesn't matter as they don't get to another one, and their final Pokemon is going to be Clefable. Now, I'm expecting they're probably on Meteor Mash and maybe Moonblast as the charge moves, meaning I should resist everything, but Shadow Moltres is very glassy, so I'm going to shield anyways, as they go for the Meteor Mash to come back in with the Jellicent. And you know what, we might as well just get rid of this thing before they even reach a Surf. We get the KO with the Fly, and we can go for another charge move. We're going to overfarm here, going to throw on CMP. Fly is enough damage to take out Clefable, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle. We're going to see a load of Ninetales in the lead. So, honestly, not that bad for me since I do have Ancient Power for coverage. The opponent is on Charm there, so going to be slightly slower to the charge moves. Ancient Power also going to connect. It doesn't get the boost this time around, but that's okay. I can just shield here, and the opponent actually not going to reach back-to-back charge moves as I can fully Powder Snow farm them down. Now, they come in with a Sableye. I'm going straight for Icy Wind. Icy Wind going to debuff their attack stat, grab a shield in the process as well, and I can reach yet another Icy Wind. So Icy Wind number 2, gonna be no shielded. I swap into Zapdos, and even if they have Power Gem, I should now be able to tank it as they're double debuffed, but they go for foul play. I'm now gonna look to overfarm, fire off the Drill Peck on CMP. Drill Peck is going to grab the final shield, and at this point, I'm gonna let the Zapdos go down. Foul play gets the KO. We can come in with the Moltres, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Jellicent. But again, we're ahead on energy. We can go straight for Fly. Fly, gonna do huge damage into Jellicent. I actually don't even need to throw a second charge move. I can just safely shield up the Surf, commit to a full wing attack, farm down. And again, I don't need to throw any moves, as we can wing attack, farm down the Sableye, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up there into the next battle. I see Blastoise in the lead. This is a really bad matchup for me. Of course, rollouts are double super effective, but also I'm hitting for resisted damage with the Powder Snows, with the Icy Winds, but I figured I might as well just debuff their attack stat now, as rollouts are still going to be super effective into my Zapdos. They actually go for a Skull Bash, boosting up their defense, which is not ideal for me, but the opponent's now going to swap out into Clodsire. We've got a lot of energy. I'm going to go for a Drill Peck, and then I will swap into my Moltres, recognizing that I will need 2 charge moves to take out the Clodsire here. So we're going to shield this, as the opponent is going to be on Stone Edge for coverage, which is not ideal. However, if they've got Sludge Bomb, that's actually cheaper in energy, and it probably warrants a shield from my Moltres anyways. And the opponent going to overfarm, allowing me to reach another Fly. Fly should be grabbing a shield here. It does. It grabs the final shield. And even if they farmed up to 100 energy, they cannot store back-to-back Stone Edges, meaning I can overfarm by 2, fire off the Drill Peck on the CMP type, winning CMP. Drill Peck, gonna get the KO there. They come in with a more Pecco, and I believe they're on Charge Beam here, so I'm gonna go straight for Heat Wave. Heat Wave does big damage, but it doesn't quite get the KO there. And Blastoise does have quite a lot of energy as well, so they go for Hydro Cannon. They can just barely outpace me to the next Hydro Cannon, and unfortunately, Hydro Cannon gonna be taking out the Zapdos, and I do end up losing that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle. You can see another Gastrodon in the lead. So once again, great lead matchup for me. These Mud Slaps really not doing too much damage here. And again, they are going to go straight for Body Slam. So once again, probably looking to throw that charge move before I can debuff them with an Icy Wind. Either way, we go for Icy Wind. This time, they're not going to shield the first charge move. They will reach another Body Slam, but that's fine with me, as I will now look to commit to a full Powder Snow farm down. And I'm going to come out with a ton of loaded energy. They're going to come in with a Azumarill, so this energy doesn't really go too far here, as Ancient Power not really going to deal that much damage, but I'm going to go for another Icy Wind this time around and then swap into Zapdos. The opponent actually ends up shielding there, which is huge for me, because even Ancient Power, we've already seen, doesn't do much damage. Now we're going to come in with a Zapdos. I'm still going to shield an Ice Beam anyways, but of course it means the bubbles are dealing hardly any damage at all. We can go for another Drill Peck. Drill Peck is going to grab the final shield, and I'm really hoping Drill Peck will get the KO here, as they do have the energy for another Ice Beam, but it gets the KO. Their final Pokemon going to be Altaria, and they won't be able to Dragon Breath farm me down before I get to back-to-back charge moves. The first Drill Peck does big damage, and the opponent, recognizing it's game over, and so they just concede the match. So, GG's top on there into the next battle, and going up against a subscriber, and they did tag me on Discord afterwards, but I mean, if you're going to tag me on Discord, at least run something spicy. Azumarill on day 1 of the season is pretty lame. I mean, they did admit to that themselves, but like, seriously guys, what are we doing? Try some new stuff at least. They come in with Sableye, they're going to go for foul play, we lose CMP, but we can actually hang on here, and we can go for the Icy Wind. Icy Wind is going to connect, and that puts them into range where I can snipe them down with my Shadow Moltres. Now, of course, Moltres not going to have a great matchup into the Azumarill, but we can go for a Fly here if the opponent wants to throw on good timing. Fly, gotta be no-shielded. And honestly, I might just sacrifice the Moltres, put all of my faith into Shadow Zapdos, and let's see what it can do. The opponent's going to have a Annihilate in the back here, so they are at least running low kick Annihilate, so that is something new. Either way, I'm going straight for Drill Peck. We throw on CMP, winning CMP, and of course, I'm going to shield here, as they are going to boost up their attack stat with a Rage Fist. And you can see, even though low kick isn't exactly a hard-hitting move, up against Shadow Zapdos, when they're boosted, it is starting to chunk. They're actually dealing more fast pressure than we're dealing to them, so they go for another Rage Fist, boosting up their attack stat once again. They look to catch onto Azumarill, and I tried to farm up to back-to-back charge moves, but actually, I got a little bit too greedy. I needed to just be one away there, and then I could have gone for one charge move. I could have outpaced the Annihilate, but unfortunately, they can just low-kick farm me down, and I do end up losing that game. But GG's open there into the final battle of this video, leading into Swampert, and you know what, because I can debuff them, I might as well shut the first charge move, as the opponent is going to go straight for the Hydro Cannon. I'm now going to go for another Icy Wind here. Icy Wind going to debuff their attack stat, meaning the next Hydro Cannon really isn't going to deal that much damage. So I'm going to no-shield this. Hydro Cannon, yeah, you can see, just barely would be able to two-shot me, but they swap into Altaria. What on earth is that swap? They must be so weak to Articuno. So I'm going to swap out Catch a Sky Attack onto my Shadow Zapdos, where of course it's debuffed and resisted, and now I can look to overfarm just a tiny bit here and fire off a Drill Peck. Drill Peck of course gonna get the KO from this range, the opponent gonna come back in with the Swampert, and I can still outpace them to the next Drill Peck. Drill Peck should get the KO once again, and their final Pokemon is gonna be a Trevenant, so yes, they were just really weak to Articuno. We can come back in with the Articuno, go straight for an Icy Wind. An Icy Wind, it's super effective, it doesn't quite get the KO, but the damage is done. We can actually just no-shield this, reveal my final Pokemon to be the Shadow Moltres, we get the Wing Attack farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.